The digital production buzz at NAB is sponsored by Maxon and by Simply, a global distribution brand.
Right now, we're talking with Chris Brown with the NAB Show, Paulina Borowski with Digital Production Buzz, Victoria Nece with Adobe Systems, and Dave Colantuoni with Avid Technology. This is the Digital Production Buzz at NAB.
Live from the 2019 NAB Show in Las Vegas. Technology, products, media, news. Connecting media professionals around the globe with the latest in technology. The NAB Show Buzz starts now.
Welcome back. It's day one at the 2019 NAB Show, and my name is Larry Jordan. This hour, we have a combination of interviews for you. To start, we take a look behind the scenes at staging this year's NAB Show. Then we go behind the scenes here at The Buzz to get an overview of our coverage here at NAB. Then, both Avid and Adobe made significant announcements this morning, so in case you missed them, we're presenting them again now. Chris Brown is the Executive Vice President for Conventions and Business Operations at the National Association of Broadcasters. He and his team are responsible for producing all of NAB's major events, including the NAB Show this year in Las Vegas. Hello, Chris. Welcome back.
Hi, Larry. How are you?
Not nearly as busy as you are, but really excited about being here at the show. We're recording this interview on Friday before the show opens, but we're playing it back on Monday, and the doors have been now open for 3 hours. What are you most excited about for this year's show?
Well, as you know, Larry, this show's been growing and evolving over the last few years and continues to do that. So I think what I'm excited about is to see people walk through the door. For us in particular this year, we've added a whole bunch of new features on the exhibit floor, in particular tied to some new and emerging technologies, some sectors that are really becoming important to us. Things like esports. We have a new esports experience built in over on the North Hall. That obviously is an area that we see having enormous potential for production, the production business and broadcasters in general, and it's growing like wildfire, and I try to understand it, but as a phenomenon, but it is a real phenomenon. The in-vehicle experience is another special feature area as well over in the North Hall, and that touches on just how important the vehicle of the future is going to be as an entertainment option for people, and as that dash evolves, as autonomy becomes more and more real, a few years down the line, of course, but we're going to have a few vehicles actually on there with some interesting connected car demonstrations so people can kind of see ultimately how that dash in particular is going to be evolving. So that's kind of fun. And then North Hall in general is always sort of an innovation hub for us, so there's a whole lot over there. We have an AI and cloud pavilion over in the South Building. We have a 5G pavilion as well in the South Building. Again, some of these new emerging technologies where we're trying to kind of tease up the conversation so that people can kind of dig in, understand sort of what's happening today, but also kind of think through, what are the implications down the line, in particular for things like 5G, which, is not quite ready for prime time, but is definitely coming and will have an impact.
Chris, you work for the National Association of Broadcasters, but esports and connected cars, even 5G, are far beyond the role of broadcasting. How do you view your role as different from NAB?
It's a great question, Larry, and it's an interesting balance that we, I think, have to play out at every show, and we sort of, as we come back and lay out a clean slate, we have to totally think through what we do to kind of connect where the industry has been, including our NAB members from a pure broadcast perspective, to where the industry is today and where it will be evolving in the future. So for us, as we look to program, as we look at what kinds of feature areas we might be looking at, technologies we might be looking at, new conference sessions we might want to build into the program, we're sort of always keeping that in mind, and it is always a balancing act where we have to look at how we can help folks understand how all of this is evolving and where they can see the opportunity in that. So for us, appreciate you asking the question, because I do think, and this hasn't always been the case, But I think we now see that there is an opportunity for us to help generate that conversation, create the forums where people can really debate these things, and in so doing actually act as somewhat of a catalyst and perhaps even a leader in kind of guiding the industry, or at least providing, again, that opportunity where people can come together and sort of figure this out together.
You serve almost as a scouting operation for the industry, trying to showcase what's coming and what's new so that all of us, not just broadcasters, but all of us in media can talk about it. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, I think it's fair, Larry. I appreciate it. Again, it's not always sort of been where we've come at this, but I think it is more and more how we look at it. And we need the industry to be engaged with us to be able to do that, because there is so much happening, as you know, so much change, so many new pieces beginning to emerge. It's not all that easy to kind of stay on top of that and make sure that we've covered the bases properly, and that that not only are comprehensive, but that everything we're doing is relevant. And I'm sure there will be cases where some people may not see exactly the same sort of relevance that we would see in certain things. But in my mind, that's okay too. It's got to be a very broad look, and anything that just sort of generates the question, gets people to think a little bit differently, maybe starts a new conversation. That's a good thing.
You are, I think, exactly correct to say that it's more than one person can keep in their mind. And one of the things you've started that I want to learn more about is, what are the Birds of a Feather session?
That's a program that we did just specific and actually developed relatively late in our planning cycle this year, and it's aimed really very much at the evolving content creation community, and in particular the cine community, or folks you might think of have been in traditional film development. LA is certainly a center point for us in thinking about that as well, and I think for us, part of what we're trying to address there is folks there are really, I think, are looking for opportunities to learn sort of within their community, and that makes sense under the umbrella of something called Birds of a Feather, but it's sort of built by the community for the community. So this is where folks are actually learning from and connecting to the actual practitioners, folks like them, peers and others and professionals who have kind of reached the top of their field and can come in and sort of talk about how they've approached certain projects, do a bit more drill down to help folks really get good practical takeaways from this. And it's something we built in response to some research we had done with that community to kind of understand whether the show was still meeting their needs, and in particular for us thinking about particularly our central hall, which tends to be production central, where we have a lot of the studio production equipment, everything from cameras, lighting, green screen, you name it. And what we were hearing was that things are changing so quickly that, obviously digital has created new workflows and people are running hard to kind of keep up with that. And, while the hardware is still valuable and it's still great for them to see, really what they need to understand is now how people are kind of taking advantage of all these new tools to really do things more efficiently, to do things better, to experiment with new techniques and that type of thing. So that's a long answer, but that's what that Birds of a Feather program is meant to do, is kind of get that community together so that they're kind of teaching and learning together.
The show is overwhelming and overwhelmingly large. Where can people go to find an exhibitor or find a session or even plan their day?
Two ways. One is there's a mobile app that you can download. Just need to type in NAB Show in either your iPhone or Android Google Play Store, and should find NAB Show, pull that up, and do download the new version. Don't try to use the old version because we update it every year. So if you're trying to work off the old version, it's going to be confused and not get you what you need. So download that new version. That's a great tool because I think we keep doing a better job of organizing it. You can locate exhibitors in 3 or 4 different ways, by category, by alpha, by location, you name it. There are floor plans on the app. And then on the session side, we have sessions also organized in 3 or 4 different ways that will help you get to the kinds of things you've done. And we've tried to do more with it as well to drill down for you on more even just topic interest and broader areas so that people can identify both sessions and exhibitors that may relate to things they're doing. So that's a great tool. And then you can always go to the website, again, from your phone, laptop, wherever you might be. Go right to the www.nabshow.com. That is mobile adapted. It can pretty much do everything you've been doing with it leading up to the show. There is a planner feature on both the show website as well as the mobile app. You You can create your own profile, begin to check off exhibitors and sessions and other programs and events that you may want to see, and it'll build a schedule and track a schedule for you, and is dynamic as you change all of that, so that's always a great tool. So I would encourage people to do that. And then once you get on site, for people who still want to hold something in their hands, we've got our guides, we have maps, and then of course we've got good old human beings that are always around to help.
Plenty of people to give you answers. That website is nabshow.com. nabshow.com. The mobile app, do a search in both iOS and Google for NAB Show. And Chris Brown is the Executive Vice President for Conventions and Business Operations at the National Association of Broadcasters. Chris, have a great show, and we'll talk to you again on Wednesday.
Thank you very much, Larry. Looking forward to it.
Every year at the NAB Show, you'll find more than a few attendees camping out at the Maxon Cinema 4D booth all day. Why? Because Maxon hosts presentations by the most respected 3D artists in visual effects, motion graphics, and design. This year, there will be 28 unique presentations from 21 different artists. Even if you're not attending NAB, you can watch all the Cinema 4D presentations streaming live at c4dlive.com. And if you register, you'll be entered into a raffle to win from over $20,000 in prizes. Can't watch live? No worries. All presentations will be made available on demand on the Maxon YouTube channel a few weeks after the show. Maxon Cinema 4D. Stop by Maxon's booth at NAB in South Lower 6324 or tune in to the live stream at c4dlive.com. That's C, the number 4, D, live.com. Paulina Borowski is the show producer for our NAB coverage this year. She's teamed with senior producer Debbie Price to create 27 shows in 3.5 days. Hello, Paulina. Welcome back.
Hi, thanks for having me.
This is your second year working with us. What's it like producing these shows?
Well, just being at NAB in general is a lot of fun. The atmosphere is very exciting. There's all kinds of new things going on. Everybody's talking to everybody. I really just love the atmosphere of NAB, and it's a really cool thing to be a part of making the show happen. I mean, it's crazy. We've got so many shows coming through, so many guests coming through the booth. We're hearing from everybody in all different sectors of the industry. So it's a lot of fun. It's really crazy, but it's definitely a fun ride.
Well, last year, I know we had you running traffic, which is the person that makes sure that everything goes from point A to point B, and we were so impressed with your work, we promoted you to producer this year.
Yes.
Which may not be a promotion in your book. What did you do last year? What was your responsibility?
So last year, I was more on the back end, more of the technical side of keeping all of the things running smoothly in terms of making sure that the show got edited, it got posted to the web in time, that it was compressed. I was doing kind of quality control, things like that. But now I'm more up at the front as a hostess, dealing with all the guests that come in, making sure they're all geared up, ready for their interviews, and that everything goes smoothly in terms of the guest side. So my kind of role has changed from more on the back end technical side, traffic control, to the upfront guests and hosts.
So what do you see as your biggest challenge this year?
So this year, I think my biggest challenge will just be staying ahead of the game, really just being on guard the whole time, because the shows are happening one after another after another. So as soon as we get the guests through for the first show, all 4 guests that come through every hour, the next group of guests are going to be arriving. So I need to set them up. Whereas before last year, if we were a little bit behind, it wasn't as big of a deal because the show was just getting edited a little bit slower, but there wasn't fast deadlines, whereas now we're dealing with live. So I need to make sure that everybody's in their seat and in their place exactly when we go live on the hour, every hour.
We're recording this interview on Friday before NAB opens, but we're airing it on Monday after our coverage has started. So paint a picture. How many shows are we creating?
So we're creating 22 new shows over this 3.5-day convention. We're doing 22 new shows, live shows. We've also got 4 highlights shows that we're doing. So we're going to be picking the best interviews or ones that we think are extra interesting, and we'll be putting them in highlight shows, one every day. And then, of course, we have our regular Thursday night buzz.
How many industry leaders are we interviewing?
We're interviewing 92 industry leaders. So there's going to be a lot of people coming in and out of the booth.
92 in 3.5 days. I think we're both going to be tired.
Oh, yes, of course.
Which interviews are you looking forward to hearing?
I'm looking forward to so many of them. I always learn so much at NAB, but if I had to pick a couple, I'm definitely interested in hearing from Dan May from Blackmagic. Of course, who isn't interested in hearing, what's upcoming in the whole world of Blackmagic? I'm also looking forward to hearing from Carrie Wooten. She's going to be interviewed on Tuesday. She's from a company called Rise, which connects women and really has this awesome mentorship program. So me as a young person up and coming into the industry, I'm especially interested in this mentorship program for women emerging into the industry. And then I'm also interested in hearing from David Schliefer on Wednesday. He's from PrimeStream. I love media management. I love workflow. And so I'm really pumped to hear from him and what he's got.
You love media management and workflow. You're going to have no problem getting a job.
I know, I'm a weirdo, but I love it.
With all the coverage that we're working on together, what do you want listeners to get from all the work that we're doing? How do they benefit?
I think they benefit because the people that we've chosen to interview are really people that are geared towards smaller productions and things like that. We're not interviewing people who are selling $600,000 gear to big, large studios. We're talking to people who are in the indie filmmaker world, are in this consumer world. So our listeners are people who can actually afford these things that the companies are putting out. So I think that it is actually very beneficial. I know I always learn a lot, and I say, "Ooh, man, I should look into that. Oh, DaVinci Resolve, what? It's free? Okay, yeah, let me look into that." So I think that all of the interviews that we're doing are really geared towards our audiences so that they can actually get something valuable out of what they're learning.
I think you're exactly right. When we were putting the show together back in February, one of the goals that we set for ourselves is we wanted to talk to companies that people have never heard of. That was one of our criteria. Second, people that reflect the needs of independent filmmakers and small work groups as opposed to studios, which you so nicely mentioned. And then third, established companies that are just coming out with products, people like Blackmagic and AJA Video Systems and others who've been in the industry for a long time. We just need to find out what their latest news is. So I agree with you. It's to help listeners get information that they can use to improve their lives or improve their business.
Absolutely.
Where can people go to follow all of our NAB coverage?
So if you want to follow this week's coverage, you can go to nabshowbuzz.com. That's nabshowbuzz.com. So that's where you can find everything from this week. We're going to be live streaming on there. We're going to be posting all of our interviews afterwards, both individual interviews and shows with 4 guests apiece. But for new shows all year long, of course, you can go to digitalproductionbuzz.com, and we have a weekly show every Thursday.
I like how you mentioned those websites. And by the way, I should mention that we're also providing full, complete written transcripts of every show. Compliments to the folks at Simon Says, and I'm grateful to them for all their hard work in creating transcripts. You'll find them on the show page as well. The 2 websites are nabshowbuzz.com and digitalproductionbuzz.com, and Paulina Borowski is the show producer for our NAB coverage this year. And Paulina, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Larry.
And welcome back to the first day of the 2019 NAB Show. We're talking with Victoria Nece. She is the Senior Product Manager for Motion Graphics and Visual Effects. Victoria, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
How would you define what a product manager, a senior product manager of motion graphics and visual effects does?
So the thing that is much shorter is to say I'm the product manager for After Effects, but I also have motion graphics templates. There's a few other things, but that's a little bit shorter and fits on the business card.
Well, yeah, but it's much more impressive to say motion graphics and visual effects. I mean, I saluted when you walked into booth. That was great. Adobe made all of its announcements earlier last week, and I've had a chance to read through your press materials, and there's some amazing stuff that actually exists outside of After Effects. But let's focus on your love, which is After Effects. What's the news?
So the big thing we've introduced this cycle is content-aware fill for video. And content-aware fill is one of those things that was a huge hit in Photoshop when it first came in CS5. Just be able to finally remove objects from images pretty seamlessly. And it's something people have wanted to do to remove things from video for just as long. But that's actually a much harder task, because not only do you need to remove something, you need to have that consistent from frame to frame. It needs to not have any jitter, any chatter. And so it's been a long time coming, and it's finally here, and we've seen users already doing some amazing stuff with it.
Well, let me just back this up and put it in context. Is this similar to the patch tool in Photoshop, where I need to have a surrounding area that has the same texture and I'm just mapping the area from one to the other? Or is it creating all new media based upon how it interprets the selection?
So it actually looks at your entire video, not just the frame that you're on. And that's the cool thing that we can do, is we have frames where maybe the camera's moved and we can actually see behind the thing you're trying to remove. And we can synthesize that. We can look at the motion in the video and make an estimation as to what's probably in that hole that you're trying to fill. And so we can use all of that information, not just what's in the same frame.
So the frame that has the object is not on a frame-by-frame basis, but it's looking at it through the whole clip.
Yes, exactly. It goes through your entire clip, runs an analysis, and then makes its best guess as to what's going to be in that space. And you can guide it further. You can create reference frames if you want to sell it, no, this is what should go in that space.
Well, I have to play with this. This is just too cool. But
it's a ton of fun.
Surely there's more than one thing you've added to After Effects, because otherwise it's a lonely new feature.
That's a pretty big feature. The other really big thing that's come this cycle is something for our more advanced users, and that's a brand new editor for writing expressions. And expressions are snippets of JavaScript that enable you to make dynamic, responsive animation, have things animate procedurally, tie properties together. It's really, really powerful, and we've now built a full code editor right into the timeline. So we've got things like autocomplete and syntax highlighting and line numbers to make it much easier to see the structure of your code, what you're doing, and also to help guide you in writing code, because most of our users aren't coders.
Well, the coders are jumping up and down, and the artists are scratching their heads saying, what did she just say, because none of it is English. Translate that into how would I use this? What's a use case?
So one really good example is one of the simplest expressions you can write is wiggle. And you can take a layer and have it animate automatically instead of hand keyframing frame by frame. I want this to move a little bit here and a little bit there. You can just say wiggle and how much and how often, and it'll do it for you.
So it's a way of bypassing keyframes to achieve movement.
Exactly. It's a great way to write something once, get some automatic motion, have one piece of a composition respond to the motion you've animated somewhere else. It's a really, really powerful tool, and we're making it a little more approachable.
Well, thinking of approachable, one of the challenges that After Effects has is it's recognized around the world as the leading motion graphic arts creation tool. It's used on everything. But new users are terrified by it. It is not the world's simplest application to learn. And that strikes me as a two-edged sword. You want the power, but you also want to have people use it that haven't used it before. How do you enable people to get started with After Effects that don't have the experience?
We've been putting a lot of work into that because it is famously intimidating. And I've been using After Effects most of my life, and so to me it's second nature. But if you come to it brand new, we realized you really need some guidance. And so a few months ago, we introduced an in-app Learn panel that actually guides you through from import, creating
panel?
It's an in-app Learn panel to guide you from very beginning, from importing your footage all the way through to adding effects, adding some animation, and exporting. And it makes it a lot easier to get those basics right in the app. So we're trying to smooth at least the front part of the learning curve.
You know, that's helpful because I teach motion graphics to students, and it just takes, I have to spend a lot of time decreasing their fear that, yes, you can master this, because once you master it, it unlocks a huge universe of possibility, but getting started is a huge step up. So congratulations on the panel. I know you work with After Effects, but you're also our first Adobe guest. Can you highlight some of the other features that Adobe has announced? Because we're going to be talking to Patrick Palmer on Wednesday. We're talking to Duran Gleaves this afternoon, who are audio and Premiere. But I can't wait. What are some of the other highlights?
So Premiere has a really great new tool called Freeform View. It's a new way of viewing all of the clips in your project and sort of doing a live storyboard and mapping things out visually. You can make things bigger, you can pile things up and put pieces of shots together where they fit. It's a really nice new feature, especially for anyone who thinks visually. It helps you get your pieces of your project in order. And then on the audition side, we've got Punch and Roll, which especially for it's fun to say, but it's also for someone who's doing any kind of voiceover work. You flub a line, you go back, and you just start recording right over top. It's really nice, it's really seamless.
Of the stuff that's been added to After Effects within the last 6 months, not necessarily for NAB, what's the feature that you like that didn't get any publicity?
Ooh. So one of the things that's in the new release that's a tiny little thing, but I think is going to be super powerful, is Premiere now has rulers and guides. And so we said, let's make them exportable for After Effects. You can now save presets and share them with Premiere users so everyone can have everything aligned across both applications. It's a small thing, but it's going to do a lot to keep people in line.
That is so cool. I've been frustrated for trying to get stuff to line up forever, and having to match the guides between After Effects and Premiere is tough. What's another one? Do you have another? You got a few more seconds,
okay,
and
sure.
I'm interested in new features.
So my favorite After Effects feature last year is the thing called master properties that enable you to make multiple versions of a composition with different variations. This is tremendously powerful, so much less copying and pasting. You just override the things that you care about, the things you want to change, and it's just like motion graphics templates, but inside After Effects. There's a ton of power there. It's a lot of fun.
If a user has a comment that they would like to see After Effects add a feature, how can they get feedback to Adobe?
So we have a great new site called User Voice, where you can you can submit feature ideas, submit bug reports, and you can vote up other ideas other people have had, and you can find it through the help menu in any of our video apps.
That website is all one word, User Voice, uservoice.com.
We have a slightly longer URL. I would recommend people go to help, and there's a provide feedback link in our help panel.
So go to the Adobe website and click on Help, and then it's the User Voice section within that. And Adobe actually reads these?
Oh yeah, we read all the feedback we get. We have lots of discussions about posts on there.
Cool. Victoria, where can people go to learn more about the products Adobe has available?
I'd say start with adobe.com.
You know, it's amazing when it's all one word and it's only 5 letters long. That's ADOBE for those of you who are brand new to the web, adobe.com. Victoria Nece is the Senior Product Manager for Motion Graphics and Visual Effects at Adobe. And Victoria, I wish you a great NAB and congratulations on all the new features.
Thank
it's
you
a lot
very
of
much.
work, and congratulations to you. The Buzz will be back in just a few seconds. I want to introduce you to Simply Workspace. Powered by StoreNext 6, this new storage technology is the answer to how smaller post and in-house creatives can work simultaneously on high-resolution content without the hassle of big facility infrastructure. All your content is stored in one place. There's no moving and no copying files. Just plug in your Macs, PCs, or Linux workstations using a Thunderbolt cable and get to work. Simply Workspace is a professional-grade storage network. Starting at $10,995 for a 24-terabyte RAID system supporting 4 simultaneous Mac users. You can grow capacity and users as you need, up to 288 terabytes and 8 simultaneous users. No rack storage, no fiber channel, just the speed and ease you need. It's called Simply Workspace. That's SYMPLY, Simply Workspace. Learn more at gosimply.com. Hi, this is Larry Jordan. Thank you for listening to our coverage of the 2019 NAB Show. Now, I want to invite you to continue listening to the Digital Production Buzz after NAB ends. For almost 20 years, The Buzz has covered the media industry for creative storytellers. We look at new technology, new techniques, and the people who turned them into programs. From production to post to marketing and distribution, we focus every show, every week, on helping you grow your creative business. We webcast a new show live every Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Los Angeles time. Then make it available for download on iTunes, Spotify, Libsyn, and thedigitalproductionbuzz.com. Join the Buzz family and discover what the future of media holds while you still have time to plan for it. I look forward to chatting with you each week. Our first guest is David Colantuoni. He's the VP of Product Management for Avid, and Avid has been making a lot of news this weekend with some amazing announcements, and I'm looking forward to hearing more. David, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
You guys have been busy. Oh, my goodness.
I'm exhausted.
First, tell me what the VP of Product Management does so we understand the perspective you're coming from, and then we're going to talk about the news.
Yep. So we sort of start the process on product development. We run the business of all the different entities at Avid. For me, it's Media Composer, audio products, cloud, and so forth. We work with engineering and the architects to make the products.
Okay, so now that you've made the products, let's talk about the announcements. What's the news?
Okay. Wow. We had a lot. I guess we'll focus on Media Composer. So this weekend we have our Connect event, which is where we bring in a lot of our customers and they come in, we have a reveal, and it's quite extensive. It runs over the whole weekend right before NAB. The big announcements for Media Composer, we've been busy, as you said. We relaunched the product essentially with a new user interface, something we've been working on for a little bit of time. We've extended the capabilities to more finishing and delivery type of things around, like with IMF and a 32-bit color pipeline. We've also introduced a new model of Media Composer that allows you to customize the interface, so you can take Media Composer Ultimate and make it however you want to. And there's different sort of roles that happen in organizations that you might want a user to use a particular function, maybe a logger, so you can set up a Media Composer to just do logging functionality. And then we also introduced a render farm, or what we call distributed processing. And that's sort of for the emerging high-res workflows around 8K. We're finding that a lot of people just want to edit. They don't want to spend time rendering, so we can offload it to a render farm. We've been pretty busy, and it really is a relaunch of the product, essentially.
Well, I want to talk about the interface, and I also want to talk about your new partnership with Bebop, where you've moved Avid up to the cloud. Let's talk about the interface first. One of the things I was talking about with Megan before the show started is that Avid has traditionally been, you follow our rules or you don't get the job done. What's been your goal in the new interface redesign?
Yeah, it's quite a daunting experience to go through it, because the product is used on so many productions that are live and active all the time. And it's hard for editors to sort of pull themselves off and relearn new functions. So we had two goals. One, make sure we keep that workflow and editors working, right? But improve the way they work.
Don't screw our deadlines.
That's right. The second one is we have a lot of people who are entering the industry and they want to learn how to use Media Composer, and we have a product called Media Composer First that allows them to do that, but they still needed to have a more modern experience. So that goal was to make it easier to sort of step into Media Composer. So that was our approach. And I think we did a pretty good job of it.
Well, I have not yet seen the new interface. I'm looking forward to taking a look at it later in the show. But the other thing that caught me by surprise is Avid is moving to the cloud. Tell me what this is, because this is a major shift for the company.
Yeah, so we've been talking about the cloud in different instances in various ways for the past couple of years. And we actually have a lot of cloud deployments in the industry right now. It's hard to believe, but we have major installations of major media companies using Avid in the cloud. One of the things we haven't done is extended that past our Microsoft relationship. So essentially people that do services in the cloud, like a Bebop or a Quest in the UK. So we've engaged them to have the ability to sell Nexus Cloud and Media Composer working as a service in the cloud.
Well, if I'm an Avid editor, why should I consider local or why should I consider cloud? What makes the determination of where I go?
Yeah, there's various workflows that you're looking to succeed in with the cloud. One is you're working on a production, but you need to spin up capacity. You need more storage. You need more editors to finish a project. This way, you don't have to go deploy a whole infrastructure. You don't have to buy licenses. You don't have to buy more storage. If you want to, you can just point yourself to the cloud. You can click a few buttons, call Bebop or Quest, and they can get you running pretty quickly. So that's probably the biggest use case that we're seeing right now.
So if I'm in a essentially fixed environment where I'm doing same throughput with the same people, running local is probably the easiest. But if I need to scale in a hurry or I've got a short-term project, moving to the cloud would allow me to do that more quickly than bring in additional
Absolutely.
infrastructure.
Yeah.
I had a brilliant question for you, and I totally forgot it. What was anything new on? And I know it's not your responsibility, but did Pro Tools announce anything new?
Nothing new with Pro Tools because we just came off of our NAM releases.
Can you remember what you announced there?
We did. We announced some capabilities around network licensing and more voice packs for more voices for HDX and those sort of capabilities. So yeah, it was a good NAM for us too. So we've been quite busy. Yeah.
You mentioned that you're now supporting 8K. I just want you to know I'm a serious 8K skeptic. I think it's the dumbest thing I've heard in a long time. Not to put a stake in the ground, but why 8K? Beside the fact that people are talking about it, is there really an advantage to 8K?
So we actually have customers asking us for it.
You have some sick customers.
We actually support unlimited raster and Media Composer, but we have presets for 8 and 16K. So we announced that too.
Do you know how big the files are for a 16K image?
Yeah, they're pretty big.
Carry the RAID around with a dolly. All right.
So
8 or 16K.
You'll see the Olympics broadcast in 8K this year.
No, I won't. My set is only a 720p set. What I'm going to look for in 8K makes no difference to me.
I visited Best Buy the week before NAB, and I said, "Where is your 8K TV?" And they were coming in that week. So.
And you didn't buy me one.
I didn't buy you one.
Dave.
I didn't. So, but you'll see. So we have some customers. We have a customer, NHK, who's looking to broadcast and create drama in 8K. And not only do they want 8K, they want 8K 120 frames per second. They want to do multi-stream editing inside a Media Composer. NBC is looking at doing the Olympics in 8K. They'll have an 8K stream of it. So yeah, it's an emerging sort of format. And we support it.
You have to support it if your customers require it, but you have some very, very sad customers. That's all I can say. What's the thing? I mean, you're head of product management, and you see all the features, not just the headline, but the small stuff. What's a small feature that didn't get any publicity that you're excited about?
I think the most, I talked about it earlier, actually. Well, there's a couple of themes, right? One is this, we call it Media Composer Enterprise. And one trend we see is the ability to set a project and have roles do certain things in an organization. And so we basically have made this product that allows you to do that sort of thing. And that way, if you're a logger or you're a journalist editor and you want to use Media Composer, you can do that and create any scenario you want to in an organization.
For people that want more information about the products that Avid offers, where can they go?
Avid.com.
Say it again because it was too quick. I didn't get my notes done.
www.avid.com.
That website is all one word, 4 letters, AVID, avid.com. David Colantuoni is the VP of Product Management for Avid. And David, it is always fun talking to you. Thank you for sharing your time.
Thank you.
Take care. I want to thank our guests this hour, Chris Brown with NAB, Paulina Borowski with The Buzz, Victoria Nece with Adobe Systems, and Dave Colantuoni with Avid Technology. Our senior producer is Debbie Price. Our show producer is Paulina Borowski. My name is Larry Jordan, and thanks for listening to the Digital Production Buzz at the 2019 NAB Show.
The Digital Production Buzz at NAB was sponsored by Maxon and by Simply, a global distribution brand.
The Digital Production Buzz at NAB is copyright 2019 by Thalo LLC.